Let's get some basketballs in the chat for Andrew Bogut. How are you, Bogues?
Good yourself?
Mate, I tell you what, I reckon you've gotten fitter since you've left NBA. You're looking prime. What's going on? You got a good workout routine, or?
It's a haircut, maybe. Still looking out. Yeah, but the NBA stuff, the NBA days are gone, I think. If the game was half court, I'd be half a chance, but the full court thing might get me.
Would you ever, like, you know how they've got the 3v3 with the Ice Cube or whatever it is? Would you ever play that if they reached out to you?
Oh, they reached out, yeah, no, I turned it down. Don't want to make myself in Vegas for a long stretch in the summer and just the kids' school and all that kind of stuff. It's just and risk reward, right? Like for me, it's not that it's all about money, but for the risk to, get another injury or something like that, it's just not worth it.
Yeah. So I've been listening to your Rogue Bogues, and I love that you've updated to the camera setup and we can actually see your face. And I know that Pro is more than happy not to be on screen, so which is great. But you're talking, and we'll get into the NBA season in just a second. And just talking about I liked your point about the younger kids coming into the competition and how many games they're playing. Like, AU games, over 100. I was surprised to hear that stat. Do you think as well, does that transfer into the regular NBA season? I think we might have touched on it last year a little bit, but like 82 games is a lot of games, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, but I mean, Pro, co-host on the podcast, made a valid point that, when you're playing 82 games in the NBA, you're generally in much better shape. You have the, world-class doctors, trainers, strength trainers, diet, blah, 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 recovery, masseuses, whatever. The stat that these kids, at least in the US, are playing over 100 games a year whilst their bodies are growing. There's a lot of people that say, well, I was out in the yard every day. It's different. When you're on a hard surface, the level that these kids are playing at, it's getting better and better at a younger age. It's a lot of basketball. So I'm an advocate for more time spent on the court, the better you get, but that doesn't always mean going at 100% playing games. It means sometimes it's a 60% type skill session where you're not really straining your body too much. It's more like fine-tuning things. I think, that's a crazy number, 100 odd AAU games, and then on top of that, they got 30 or 40 high school games. So some of these kids are right up there in games. It's, basically a game every 3 days. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. Well, let's talk about the off-season and some of the trades that have happened. Obviously, the biggest one probably Dame going to Milwaukee. Your thoughts on that? I mean, they obviously give up a bit of defense. I thought like Drew Holiday, great player, but Dame, I want him to win a ring. I do like Dame. I don't know your thoughts on him, but is it a good matchup? And do you see them going through to the finals at this stage already, or the early favourites at least from the East?
Yeah, I mean they'll be up there, but I mean, like you said, they traded a lot of defense for a lot of offense, so it's a coin flip whether that works out for him. Now, Dame's a guy that you can throw the ball to late in games. Drew Holiday wasn't a high-end offensive closer. I mean, he had his moments, but they still were going through Giannis and Middleton. Now you've got a high-end offensive closer, but now you've also got a guard at the defensive end that you can pick on, that you can put into a lot of actions and try to go at, because he's not a great defender. So how that works out, who knows? I thought Milwaukee were tough with Drew Holiday at the one, and then you got Middleton and even Grayson Allen. I think the loss of him is going to be big for them. I think everything that happened with this trade, the person I'm looking at most is Middleton. I think Dame's going to do what he does. Giannis is going to do what he does. That third wheel for Milwaukee, to me, will be whether they get over the top or not. If he has a season where he's healthy and puts together a solid defensive year for him, they've got a chance. But he's coming off some injuries too. He doesn't move as he once did neither. And I just feel their perimeter defense isn't going to be great. It's putting a lot of pressure on Giannis and Lopez down the back to stay out of foul trouble and do a whole lot more rim protecting than they did the last couple of seasons.
Is that why the big three was so great with you guys? Obviously, Clay and Steph, and then you got Draymond as well. But Draymond doesn't need the ball to score, essentially, as much as those guys did?
Yeah, I mean, it naturally evolved into, I wouldn't say ours was a traditional big three where, they've gone out and traded for a big three, a la the Suns or, even Boston now. I think we drafted, when I was there, drafted Draymond, and it worked out that way. But I think you need a good mix. You can definitely have three offensive suited players, but then you got to have the role players around him. I would have liked to have seen Milwaukee somehow try to finagle keeping a Grayson Allen in that lineup, because I think he's a good 3-and-D guy, but they couldn't, obviously, with the trade going down. You're definitely going to need some role players, and you look at Milwaukee, their depth, they're okay. 7, 8, top 7, top 8, and there's a bit of a drop off. There's probably some younger guys that need to sort into that lineup to prove themselves and see how they go. But it's going to be interesting. I mean, Middleton's the guy I'm staring at, because I know Dame's going to give you what he gives you. So is Giannis. If Middleton has a year, they're conference final / championship.
So would you say, so in terms of big threes, the Phoenix has the best big three going around at the moment then?
Without doubt. And I think they've got a good mix. I think Bill gives them a good mix of offense and defense for their big three. Durant's kind of a capable defender when he wants to be. He kind of does, obviously, I wouldn't say take that end off, but he doesn't need to be. But when he gets frustrated sometimes, he'll really lock in. He's so long and athletic that he can be an above-average defender. Booker's not a great defender, but he can compete. But Beal's an all-league defender at times. And I think moving him from the role he had in Washington, where he was the number one scorer and their best defender, now we don't need you to be that high-usage guy on the offensive end. So I think not only does that hopefully keep him healthy because his usage is down, it helps him concentrate more on the defensive end. So I think they're the best big three currently as of today. And the other pieces that they've put around that in Nurkic and Allen and a few other guys, I think they've got a pretty good chance to go pretty deep.
So with that big three, just on that, would you say, like, is that big three better than what the big three was when they all were at the Nets? You know, your Harden, Kyrie, and KD, and now you've got Booker, obviously, KD, and Beal. Is that a bit better big three in your opinion?
On paper, it is. The problem was with Brooklyn, they didn't play much together. It was always someone was injured. Then Kyrie had the vaccination issue. I think KD got hurt at different periods. James, James obviously fell out of favour there and got out of there. So on paper, yeah, Brooklyn's big three was better. But I think, fast forward and see if this Phoenix squad can stay healthy and be on the floor together, I think they'll be a better big three.
We'll talk about James Harden because I'm a Houston Rockets fan, so I love James when he was at the Rockets, and he's obviously a great player, and obviously his dribbling issues were very annoying at times to pass the ball. But Daryl Morey basically said when he was at Houston, every day they rock up to work is how do we get James Harden an NBA championship. Now he's with Morey again, and then he's come out, and then James has now said that he's lied to him, and he's done everything in his power to get James with him. What did you make of those comments?
It's just interesting the falling out. I think it all comes down to, from what I've heard, was that James was promised an max extension from Morey when this all went down, and I think that's probably they've pumped the brakes on that from Philly's end and said we don't want to give you that max 5 years. Maybe we'll give you 2, 1, and that's pissed off Harden. So I think that's where the promise has broken down. I mean, they were best of buddies the last 10 years. Morey's been trying to get him on the same roster that he's been involved in for a number of years since Houston, and that's just the way it goes. I don't, I've dug into this on the pod, and Pro and I have debated whether Harden does, whether Philly do the Toronto like they did with Kawhi and just say we're not trading you. So I'd like to see that. I'd like to see James stay, because I think if he stays, they've got a championship chance. But I don't see it happening. I think James is a pretty vocal and stubborn type guy that I think he's gonna get out of there. And it's looking like Phoenix somehow. Sorry, not Phoenix. The Clippers somehow will be able to naggle him, which is just insane considering their roster. And but yeah, I think it's not good for anyone. It's not good for the league. It's not good for Philly. It's not good for James. And James is an all-world talent, but I mean in my opinion, he's getting close to the Carmelo Anthony path if he doesn't be careful. If it happens another once or twice, he's still an all-league scorer and assist guy, but a team's going to want to deal with that. If you're a young and up-and-coming team, you probably don't want him on your roster because of that distraction. But if James bought into a role and was willing to, on some teams, I know this is crazy, on some teams come off the bench and be that scoring punch, he could be the final piece for a championship. Look at some of these rosters. You put him off the bench, and he's running the second unit, probably what Chris Paul's going to be with Golden State. Less pressure, less minutes, probably 20 to 25, and you can still drop 30 or 40. Right? I think that's the route, but I think he's still at that point in his career where he might be too proud to accept that role.
I got a question in here from Team Hales that I'll get to in just a second. But just on that with Harden, So have you played with a player that's been that vocal, or is there someone like, what's it like being in a locker room when a player is obviously feuding with the office and then you've also got to play games with this guy?
Yeah, I had Steven Jackson in Milwaukee. He was a great teammate. I mean, the one thing I'll say about him was like there was a lot of distractions off the floor because he didn't want to be in Milwaukee. But when he actually played, he was a battler. Like I loved playing with him because he'd fight for you. I got in a few scuffles. He ran right there in with me to help me, and vice versa, right? But he asked, yeah, he got traded there, and within a week of getting there, he said, "I want my extension," and he was, I think, 34 at the time, and no one in the league was going to give him a long-term, high-paying deal. But he's like, "I want my extension." Milwaukee were like, "Look, just finish out the year. We'll see how it goes." And then within 2 weeks, realised he had no chance of getting an extension, and was like, "You guys need to trade me." And he put the request in. Was still playing at a high level for us, and then by December or November, yeah, I think it was like November, December. He basically said, "Hey, like I want out," and they were like, "Oh, we can't get anything yet. This, that," and then he basically he told the team, "I've got back spasms until you trade me." That was like it was hilarious because he was just like came to shoot around, would do a full workout in the morning, play one-on-one with the assistant coach, and then come to the game and not play, and just became a stalemate. And it was hilarious because everyone in the league, they couldn't do anything about it, so they eventually traded him to. He ended up going over to Golden State in my trade, and then Golden State sent him to San Antonio, and he played within a couple of days of being traded. We were supposed to be hurt, so and I've got nothing bad to say about S-Jax. He was a great teammate for me, but that's the way he was like. And it was kind of awkward. Everyone kind of knew what was going on. It's just kind of like, all right, this guy's not going to play until you trade him, so they kind of have to do it.
Oh, God, back spasms. That's great. So, yeah, this is the question in here from Team Hales. How's the Lakers looking, in your thoughts? And LeBron in his 21st season, I mean, unbelievable. I know he said he was going to retire at the end of the finals last year, but he's back again. What do you make of the Lakers? Where are they at? Where's that roster? And, can he go again to the finals?
I had him really low. I'm copping some crap for it, but I had him low. I think they're decent, but I had them at 10. I think the West is so deep. I mean, they could surprise everyone, but I just think when you're playing a guy that's, towards the end of his career, I mean, he wasn't great. Not that he wasn't great. He can't play at a high level both ends of the floor right now with his age. I think, and he's going to get his numbers at the offensive end. Defensively, in the playoffs he was better, but regular season he it takes a toll on the body to play both ends at a high level, and I think there's that. There's the AD factor. If AD will probably have a niggle here or there throughout the season. I think Reeves has obviously been real good for him. Everyone's high on him. D'Angelo Russell, streaky player, but not a consistent force in the NBA yet. So I just don't like their roster, and I think they're an aging roster for the most part with a lot of injury risk. So I'm betting this on injuries to potentially to LeBron and AD in time, and we all know how they looked when that happened last season. So that's what I'm basing it on. And I think they were a 7 seed last season. I think the West has gotten deeper in general. Even those bottom teams, Dallas now are going to have a full training camp with Kyrie and Luka. You've got numerous other teams that are in the mix. So I just based it on that. I'm pretty low on them.
Yeah, that's fair. Obviously, we can see what happens during the season, but let's talk about number 1 draft pick, Wembanyama. Where do you see him this year? Like, does he announce himself, or is his, role this year just to get comfortable in the NBA, build his body up?
Oh, he's going to put up some numbers. Yeah, they're going to play through him and just go. I don't think winning's on their priority list right now at all. So they're going to basically play through Wemby, good and bad. There's going to be nights where he's not going to look great, but I think they're just going to play through those mistakes and get all the kinks out this season. And he'll be rookie of the year quite comfortably, in my opinion. And I think he's just watching his preseason, his length, athleticism. You've got all that, but if you know basketball, he knows how to play. Like, he knows how to play the game, and that's something that you can't teach. You can have, usually you see guys with super athletic, long, and they can just rely on that talent to get through high school, college, and the NBA. He's got basketball IQ as well. He knows how to play. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes. How his body holds up in 82 games will be something to watch as well. He's a skinnier guy. He'll eventually put on some size, but I think he's always going to be that gangly, long guy, and I think that suits his game. I don't think you want to be, have him in the weight room every day. You look at, what Giannis did with his body. He's still kind of, he's ripped now, but he's not a huge burly guy. He's ripped and lean, but they'll probably look to do something like that. But he's in the right environment, the right system, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited to watch their games because I think they're going to suck as a team, but I'm excited. It's probably one of those things. Out of the last couple of seasons, it's a team that isn't going to win very many games, but they're going to have a lot of people watching their games because of Wemby.
We'll get quick fire questions for you in a second in your predictions, but this one's from AFL Betting. I'm a long time depressed Knicks fan, finally capable of enjoying my team. Where do you see the Knicks heading in the next few years?
I think they're going to be where they are now. There are some rumours that they're high on Karl Anthony Towns and might make that trade, but I don't know. I think their roster's built to be good. I don't think it's built to be great. I think they're just going to be in the middle of the pack, and Thibs is a great coach, but he does ride his starters a lot. I read a stat that they were the second most healthiest team last season. And I think they finished 4th or 5th by memory. They're in the middle somewhere. So they were the second most healthiest on win shares on the court. So they had a really lucky year. So there's a few pundits that I've read that have said we're basing them falling this season a little bit more just based on the lack of health. They're not going to be as lucky and healthy this year. So that's an interesting stat to know.
All right, Bogues, let's get your quick fire questions and we'll get you out of here because I know how busy you are. But all right, Australian to watch this season.
Australian to watch, man. I think there's a few. I think Ben Simmons is one, just to see if he can bounce back and get back into some form. He said claims he's put his hand up for Paris, so seeing how that all transcends into the Olympics. But I think a huge year for him. This is a make or break year. I don't care about all the contract stuff. It's a make or break year to see where he goes as an NBA player. Pre-season's been solid, but still some questionabilities around his shooting. That's the be all and end all. So him, I think OKC is going to be better this season. They should be win-loss record-wise better. So I think Giddey's going to be in the mix and be in the limelight a little bit. Those are probably the two. I'm interested to see how Jock Landale goes in Houston as well. They're not going to be very good win-loss wise, but I think they'll be a good, solid, well-coached team. They just don't have enough yet. And he looks like he's had a decent preseason. He had 10 last night, 2 for 3 from the three-point line. So if he can knock down some threes for him, I'm also interested to see. But there's a bunch. I mean, Dyson Daniels didn't play a lot in the Olympics. He looks like he's had a great preseason. Matisse fit in really well with Portland towards the end of last season. How does he go? Joe Ingles, not a great Olympics. Can he bounce back with Orlando? Pay looks like he's completely out of the rotation with Atlanta. Even in preseason, has only played minuscule minutes. So can he revamp himself? Dante Exum, returning from Europe as well. I know you said one guy, but I'm just going through them all. Dante Exum, coming from Europe. I'm excited to see, because when he first came to the league, he didn't have enough games under his belt. He was playing Australian high school basketball. He didn't go to college, didn't go to American high school, and then went from there to the NBA. That's a massive jump. Like, our high school system is like the most competitive in the world, right? So see him go to Europe, better himself, and come back. I'm also excited for that as well.
Yep. I can't wait. He was a bit timid as well. Obviously, a young guy coming in, and I'd love to see him attack the basketball, which is exciting. So, does the East versus West All-Star game fix the All-Star game?
I mean, how do we fix it, or does it fix it?
Well, do you going back to it? Does it fix it, or would you rather see a 1-versus-1 tournament?
Oh, yeah, I'd definitely love to see a one-on-one tournament. Like we've spoken about that on the podcast. Like that would be. I mean, 3-point contest is still cool. Dunk contest, you can't have guys that aren't playing minutes in the dunk contest, like Mac McClung thing. No disrespect to them, but I'm not really thrilled to be watching that. I want to see the big dogs go up there like the good old days of Vince Carter and Michael Jordan and whatnot. And then the 1v1 I think would be great. I think it'd be awesome to put up a few $1 million prize money and just have some guys out there, KD and LeBron and Steph and different size guys going at it. I think it'd be awesome. But the All-Star game, I think honestly the only thing that might save it is America versus the world, potentially, because of some pride will kick in there and all that kind of stuff. The media can kind of throw flames on it leading into it. So that might, but yeah, the standard East-West All-Star game, or even what they've done the last couple of... I haven't watched an All-Star game for probably since before I got into the league. I just don't... does not interest me whatsoever. No. It's tough to watch.
Yeah. Who comes out of the East? Who comes out of the West?
I've got Boston coming out of the East, if healthy, asterisks. I think that Porzingis... They do need to figure out their fourth spot, because I don't think starting Porzingis and Horford together is going to last that long. I just don't think they'll be mobile enough, but maybe. Stranger things have happened. But I like their pickup of Drew. I think that's a missing piece for them. Replaces Smart pretty quickly to get a nice defensive perimeter guy. And then the West is flip a coin. I mean, the West is so low. The Clippers claiming that they're not going to do load management anymore puts them high, in my opinion, just because if you've got Kawhi and Paul George out there now for 65 plus games, you should be a top 3 team quite easily. So they'll be up there. But Phoenix is they haven't played together much, so that's the issue with them. But I think they'll be in the mix. I don't have Denver returning. I just don't think that they'll. I think their home court is very good, and they'll win a lot of games in the regular season. I think I had them at 2, but I just think it's going to be tough to repeat the way they did. And I think losing Bruce Brown for them off the bench is a huge, huge loss for them. I think he was massive, especially in the finals.
Love it. Bogues, thanks so much for joining us. Of course, you can catch Roe Bogues, and it's actually great now that he's got the video footage up and we get to see your face, which is fantastic. But appreciate you for joining me, and I'll chat to you throughout the season.
No worries, thanks.
Imagine what you could be buying instead. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.